Good evening. Welcome to our 2018 Election Forum series here on WEFS and at FloridaToday.com. I'm Isadora Rangel, your host for the evening and Florida Today's engagement editor. Tonight on stage, we're going to meet the candidates running for County Commission District 2, covering Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral, and parts of Cocoa and Rockledge. District 2 has two primaries on the August 28th ballot. The first one in the GOP will feature former Commissioner Chuck Nelson and Brian Lober, a lawyer. On the Democratic side, we have Victoria Michener and Jack Smink. A reminder of the rules for tonight: each candidate will have 1 minute to answer our question, as well as 1 minute for their opening and closing statements. They also get a 30-second rebuttal if one of their opponents brings them up. And this forum series is a partnership between Florida Today, Eastern Florida State College, and the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast. They're partnering with us at Florida Today to make this a reality. So let's begin with our opening statements. The first one to go is Victoria Michener, a Democrat. Victoria, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Michener. I am a native here of Brevard County. I was born in Rockledge, raised out in Sharps or Canaveral Groves, which is right up the road. If you blink your eye, you'll miss it. I am the oldest of 3 children. My mother is a janitor. My father is a construction worker. I am also a U.S. Army combat veteran serving our country honorably for almost 15 years. And basically, I am running to represent the underrepresented here in Brevard County. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Yes, I'm Jack Smink. I'm third generation Brevardian. I've lived here. I moved here when I was 8 years old. My grandfather lived over on Parnell Street in Merritt Island. So I got to really experience some of the beautiful time in Brevard County when you could go out and catch a bounty of fish or crab or shrimp, and the waters were clear, and it was a lovely time to grow up. I married my high school sweetheart. We've been married, Karen and I. She's a school teacher here in Brevard County, and we've been married 39 years. I know it's hard to believe, but we've been married 39 years, and I have 2 adult children, Crystal and John. And the reason I'm running is I love Brevard County. I want to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you. Unlike my opponent, who's received more money from Democrats, lobbyists, and PACs than everyone on this stage combined, I'm self-funding my campaign. In contrast, unless my opponent's filed a new financial report today, every single contribution that he's received in the last reporting period was from the opposite party. And unlike my opponent, who's been living on a taxpayer dime for years, I'm neither a career politician nor a bureaucrat. This is my first and only political race. Unlike my opponent, who's promised some of the same things he's promising now 12 years ago and 8 years ago, but failed to deliver, I keep my promises. I don't offer excuses. Unlike my opponent, who is receiving the lowest ever rating given to any candidate by the County Republican Party, I'm a real Republican. And unlike my opponent, I'm a business owner, and I understand the needs of businesses, as that's how I make my living. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Also on the GOP side, Chuck Nelson, you go next.
I'm Chuck Nelson. I am a 28-year resident of Brevard County. I have been a Republican for 50 years this September, and unlike my opponent, I didn't have to wait 14 years to figure out I was a Republican. I live on Merritt Island with my wife, Gail. We've been married 41 years. And our son, Morgan, lives in Port St. John. I was honored to serve Brevard County as a commissioner for 8 years, through some of the most difficult economic times that I hope we ever see in our lifetime. And during that period of time, we were able to accomplish a great deal. But we're at a crossroads still, and as we move forward, we need to have leadership and we need to have experience to move forward. I have not run a nasty campaign like my opponent and will not run a nasty campaign like my opponent, so there's a huge difference between the two of us.
Thank you. No, we don't, only in the question period. Thank you. So let's get to business here. We'll start. The first question is, what is the first thing you will push if you are elected to the county commission? The first one to go is Jack.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is, the first thing on my agenda is to Now, the first thing I did when I filed to run was I went and met with every department head at the county level. I went over budgeting issues, I went over issues, and I went over how they get their funding. And I began to develop a relationship with the department heads at the county level. I feel like that's going to be my first thing on my agenda, is to go back, revisit these people, and get to develop further the relationships so that when I need resources to make decisions, because a county commissioner doesn't know everything, ladies and gentlemen, against everybody's opinion, they don't know everything. But I want to be able to go to these people and get the answers, and so that's my first and foremost first thing to do when I'm county commissioner.
Brian, you're next.
Sure. The first motion that I intend to make, and it may have to be phrased interestingly to get around some issues with the county charter, but the crux of it is I want to move to lower every commissioner's salary, including my own, by $10,000. And the reason that I want to do that is because at $58,000 and change, the individual salary for each of the county commissioners exceeds the household median income in this county by almost exactly $10,000. Given the freeness with which the commission as a whole has been spending our hard-earned tax dollars, I don't think it's appropriate that they earn that much over the median household income. If you look at the individual income, the average individual income, it's even strikingly lower than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
My first challenge will be to deal with the issues instead of with salaries. The biggest issue we've got in front of us is the lagoon, and I believe that the plan in place is a good plan. The problem is that we are not moving at a rate that I think is going to get it done in a timely fashion. I would characterize it as that we're at war. We are trying to win the battle to save the lagoon, but we don't have a general in place that has the experience to move it forward. We have some great staff, but there are not enough of them to get these projects done. So I really believe that the County Commission needs to have a discussion about how to accelerate it and to begin to work on the edges about how we're going to replace septic systems, how we're going to improve sewer systems. So the lagoon would be my #1 priority.
Can I rebut as well, since something I mentioned in reference?
Sure, you have 30 seconds.
Sure, just briefly. There's nothing that's mutually exclusive in moving to have the commissioner's salary reduced and also addressing the lagoon. As far as the lagoon being a good plan, it's worse, not better than it ever has been. Thank you.
Victoria, you're next.
So one of the first things that I would do is meet with the department directors to see what the needs are within the departments. I am a previous county employee, and I was working a particular job as a personnel officer, but was also tasked many other jobs. And so in order to continue to have the county running smoothly, we need to make sure that we figure out what's needed from those employees to keep the county continuously running in a smooth operation. Thanks.
Thank you. And speaking of needs, Brevard County has hundreds of millions of dollars in road improvement backlog. Are you in favor of an increase in gas taxes or a special infrastructure sales tax to fund road repairs? If not, how would you pay for road improvements? And Brian, you're going first.
Sure, no, simple, no. I'm not in favor of increasing taxes in order to fund that. We have a budget that's approximately $1.2 billion in this county. If we cut the expenditures that are unnecessary, we'll have ample funds to address the roads. I would add to that, given the remaining time that I have, that we need to look at the average life expectancy of a road rather than worrying about these issues in 4-year election cycles, and determine what has to be repaired, what has to be replaced, and time things according to the life cycle of the road, not according to a political life cycle.
Thank you. Chuck?
Okay. When you look at the road issue, the Blue Ribbon Committee came up with a list of roads, $600 million worth of roads that needed improvement. One of the challenges is going to be that County Commission District 2 would only get 5% of that benefit, yet be expected to pay 20% of the cost. And I think we really have to have a discussion about the road list itself and what is equitable in that. And then you have a discussion about funding. I don't believe we need gas tax at this time. I just think we need to make a equitable funding of the dollars that are available. So I will not be bringing up a gas tax.
Victoria, you're next.
No, I would not be voting to raise taxes. I would continue to follow the current plan laid out by the Public Works Department to resurface the roadways instead of letting them go unmaintained. It costs less money to the taxpayers to do road resurfacing than to actually have to rebuild another road. So that's my stance on that.
Jack?
Yeah, your county staff and your county manager works on the recommendation of the county commission. And the county commission are 5 people that are elected, and there's a cost involved in that election. So if special interest groups are funding those particular people that are running, it puts undue pressure on them to accommodate them down the road. So what that does is that causes an inequitable balance of priorities. In other words, they don't do the first thing, the most important thing like roads and infrastructure first. They go to the tourism and they want to put in grass in a ball field. And so I feel that their priorities need to be readjusted. The county commissions do. The county is doing a jam-up job. The employees and the staff are doing a fabulous job of balancing what they can.
Thank you. The next question is actually from a reader. Over the last decade, stormwater and flood levels on North Merritt Island have been rising higher each year, flooding more roads and houses of long-term residents. That's caused in part by building on previously open lands that held water during storms. If elected, will you limit new building in flood-prone areas? And if not, how will you address this issue? And Chuck, you're going first.
Okay. I think the issuance of a moratorium for septic systems is going to be beneficial. The County Commission has just approved doing a drainage study to determine what some of the issues are on flooding. It's clear that we've had a change in the ecology of North Merritt Island. During the Hurricane Irma, I happened to live on the water. My dock was underwater for an extended period of time, which means that water can't get off of North Merritt Island. So I really believe that we need to understand what the issues are, and we're going to bump into the issue of property rights because people have a right to develop property, but we need to make sure that it doesn't cause damage to the other properties. Property rights extend to both sides of the property line.
But would you agree to limiting building in that area?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Victoria, you're next.
So I would also agree to limit building in those areas. We also need to make sure that the public is aware of all of the places that are at risk within the county that are vulnerable to flooding. And so that's basically my stance on that.
Thank you. Jack?
North Merritt Island's under attack. Their environment is. The wetlands are under attack, and the people that are attacking the property and the people that are already there is the special interest groups, the developers, the people that get the people that they pick elected. Once they get elected, they cash in their chips and they get approval of zoning changes. They go from agricultural to residential. Now, Merritt Island's at an impasse right now, and it's flooding terribly. They call it the bowl. Merritt Island is basically a bowl. The only way they keep water from totally flooding everyone is to put 3 pumps strategically in Merritt Island and pump the water in a circle till it finally perks down into the ground. So common sense tells you putting more homes in, more slabs, and approving parking lots for the port is not a good idea for North Merritt Island. North Merritt Island needs a break, man.
Thank you, Chuck.
And that would be an issue
Thank
that
you.
I would go for.
Move on to Brian now.
Thank you. I'm going to dovetail off that in terms of the soil permeability being an issue. Anytime you put slabs, anytime you put concrete, asphalt, brick, and you block water from being able to seep into the ground, you end up with the potential for problems. I'm going to digress from everyone on this table, though, with respect to my answer with development. I think that we shouldn't have a blanket prohibition. However, if there is a plan that's proposed, the onus ought to be on the individual or individuals proposing that plan to explain clearly to the commission how it is they're accounting for the water so that it doesn't compound the problem and make the problem worse that's already existing up there with standing water and with floods that they frequently have. Unfortunately, this has been dealt with as a political question more than a scientific question, but I really believe that if the onus is put on those proposing the plans to address that, with the knowledge being that if they don't address that, the plans won't be approved, we'll be in a position where we're still fostering new folks moving into the community without having to harm the local residents that are already there.
Thank you. And still on the topic of growth, next question is, Brevard County is enjoying significant population growth, which brings costs and the need for new infrastructure such as roads, water, and sewer plants. Do you believe we should continue to encourage growth in the county? If so, how do we make it sustainable? Victoria, you go first.
So I am fine with growth in the county as long as it is smart growth. There's nothing wrong with people coming here to Brevard County and embracing the culture that we have. However, we're going to need some trade programs here to help sustain a better way of life here in Brevard County.
Jack, you're next.
The word I like to use is sustainable. Sustainable growth. Not against growth, but I think that every decision, not just when it comes to our environment, when it comes to our culture, when it comes to what's important in Brevard County, has to be dealt with through the lens of sustainability. In other words, when you look at your children, your grandchildren, your grandchildren, you want to be able to have them look back and say, you know what, my great-grandpa did a pretty good job on making decisions. He made sustainable decisions. And the only way to do that is to be able to be a free man and make your own decision and not have pressure applied by special interest groups. I'm going to go back to special interest groups. I can't help it.
And Brian, should the county continue to encourage growth? You're next.
Yes, I am going to say I agree with the concept of smart growth. I don't know that we necessarily agree on what that means. I tend to live by the golden rule, and I encourage that folks think the same way with respect to this question, in that do unto others as you want done unto you is sort of a good idiom or good axiom here. You want to look at the impact that the proposed building has on neighbors. By and large, if everything's going well, you should be free to do largely as you please with your own property. However, when you're interfering with your neighbor's property rights and your neighbor's ability to enjoy their property properly, that's an issue. I do have a concern with that. So I am in favor of growth, but I am in favor of having reasonable restrictions that prevent growth from interfering with neighbor's property.
Thank you. Chuck?
You know, smart growth is about trying to put your residential and your commercial in areas where the infrastructure already exists. It's not about going out and creating something new and you leave something behind that is there just to decline. So I think that we need to focus on sustainability through encouraging and coming up with programs that would encourage redevelopment of our existing areas as opposed to going out into undeveloped areas and growing from the inside out. Because in the end, we end up leaving behind properties that fall into disrepair and actually hurt property values. So I'm in favor of smart growth. I think it needs to be sustainable. We need to have a program in place that encourages that.
Thank you. And now onto the lagoon. What is your plan to reduce the number of septic tanks along the lagoon and expedite their conversion to sewer lines? Jack, you go first.
Well, you got to start with the homes that have septic tanks the closest to the lagoon itself, because those have the biggest impact, and then work your way out. I would love to see us get on city sewer, city water eventually, and work toward that end. That's going to be difficult because you're talking about a very expensive endeavor. But for right now, I would start closest to the lagoon and work our way out from there.
Brian, your plan to reduce septic tanks along the lagoon?
I think the bigger question is the alternative better? And right now, I'm not going to argue that septic tanks aren't causing problems with the lagoon, that they're not contributing to the overall issue. However, when we have frequent breakages of lines where we're having 870,000 gallons that we know of raw sewage going right into the lagoon, to put people on a system that's failing at this point doesn't seem to really solve the problem. It may make people feel good in the interim between switching from septic to sewer and the sewer breaking, but the problem is we have a major infrastructure issue, not just with roads, but with the sewers and the storm drains, where they're not being leak tested and they're not being observed and reviewed as they ought to be. They have a finite lifespan. They need to pressure test them. They need to corrosion test them where they're visible to the naked eye, and they need to fix that. And then after that's done, we can look at switching people from septic over to sewer, once sewer is reliable once more.
Chuck?
You know, sewer systems are ratepayer based. They're not tax supported. So I think you have to keep in mind that as we talk about making all these improvements, what our rates are going to be. And that's always going to be the challenge. There's going to need to be a partnership between the lagoon program and the half-cent sales tax with the jurisdictions, which are, and there are several different jurisdictions that do sewer. It's not only just the county. To do this. The county moved forward with $130+ million of improvements. The problem is it does take time to make those improvements. And you may not be aware of it, but the county bought those systems from the private sector. So in some cases, they're not even fully sure of what's in the ground. They're having to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. But we've got to do better. There's no question about it. The latest break happened in an area where it was closed off, or at least they thought it was. And so I'm not sure how they would have anticipated that 30 years down the road that was going to happen.
Victoria, you're next.
So I would convert more homes from septic to sewer, and also find a non-invasive way so that we're not invading other people's privacy or going into people's pockets and making them pay for something that they can't afford. Because if we do the conversion from septic to sewer, that's going to cost. That's going to have to come from somewhere. So I would say we would go into some agreements with some local municipalities and just work across the aisle and see if we can reach out to the state and even the federal level for funding.
Thank you. As you're probably well aware, there is a proposed constitutional amendment on the November ballot asking voters to approve expanding the homestead exemption at a cost of up to $12 million in tax revenue annually for Brevard County. Do you think voters should approve that amendment? And if so, how should the county make up for the lost revenue? Brian, you go first.
Sure. And I've heard different numbers. I hear, as you said, up to 12 million. Let's go with that just for the sake of argument. You've got to keep in mind that the actual budget of the county is $1.17 billion. We can cut fat and cut excessive spending such that that won't give us problems. In terms of whether individuals should vote for that, it's not my place to tell folks whether they should vote for a particular amendment or not. I think that the reality of the situation is it's almost certain to pass. I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I would say that's going to pass. $12 million out of the budget that we have, even when you take away the items that we really can't touch in that budget, we still have ample funds available if we spend more wisely.
Chuck?
I think that's simplistic to the extent that the $12 million of lost revenue is made up of different pockets of money. For instance, our road deputies are funded specifically out of a tax, and that's $1 million cut. And there is no way to back fund that. And you're not going to find $1 million of road deputy fat. So I think there are going to be some challenges for the county. I'm always disappointed with the legislature creating these things without actually determining what those impacts are to the local communities. And I would hope that at some point the legislature actually creates a impact component to these different statutes that they create. But whether or not the citizens are going to approve it, I think they probably will. I don't know that I've ever seen a tax cut that didn't pass. And the problem is we don't tie it to what the reality of the cut's going to be.
Isadora, can I respond briefly?
No, I'm sorry that he did not bring you up, but I will ask you, how should the county make up for the lost revenue, Chuck?
Well, I think it's going to be a combination of some effort to reduce budgets and determine what our needs are, and You know, there may have to be, you know, in the case of the road deputies, there may need to be the need to actually increase that millage, but offset it somewhere else.
Thank you.
Isidore, just
Victoria?
briefly.
I'm sorry, rebuttal only if he brings you
It
up.
was brought up. I was told that my plan was overly, or my analysis was overly simplistic.
Sure, go ahead.
I appreciate it. Now, I just want to get clarification here that what was said was a mischaracterization of what I had earlier said. I've never proposed $1 million cut to road deputies or anything of that nature, so I'm not sure where that came from. I think that's just a straw man argument that was put up to be easy to knock down.
Victoria, you're next.
So I would never tell anyone how to vote. I would tell people to vote your conscience and what works best for you and your finances. I do believe that homestead exemption would pass in November. And I think residents need to think what impacts it will cost to the county. The $12 million is a huge hit to the budget. And so I'm not sure what services would be cut if that did pass, but some of the things that I did look at if that did pass is service contracts, various services that people are used to may be gone. So I think that voters should take time and consideration of the impacts that, you know, will be there.
Jack, you're next.
Here's the truth of this, the fact. Yes, $7 to $12 million loss to our revenue for us to be able to put in more infrastructure or whatever needs we have. But more important than that, who benefits from this? The way it's structured, it's a $100,000 home or more. So that means if you don't have a $100,000 home, and there's a lot more people than probably people realize that don't have a $100,000 home, they benefit nothing from this, nothing. Okay? So, and I think that equates out to almost 50% of our citizens out there do not benefit from this tax, this homestead exemption. So we need to think of what we're getting for that. It's probably going to pass because all that people are hearing is homestead exemption, but it doesn't apply to everybody. Middle and low class doesn't get it.
Time is up. Thank you. And since we're talking about cutting costs and finding savings, should the county reduce library park hours or services to save money, whether this measure passes on or not in November? Chuck, you go first.
Well, I was on a commission that was required to do that, and we did. We reduced the county's budgets by 500 million, or 500 positions, and about $80 million. And the difficulty was most of those positions were in parks and in libraries, and I think they have been cut to the extent that they can be cut. You can tighten up some, but you're not going to find significant dollars in those areas to cut. And our citizens have shown that they appreciate both their parks and libraries. They have supported numerous referendums. They have built parks after having told the county commission, this is what we want to do, and pass those referendums. So I think it's going to be difficult. I'm not in favor of closing parks and libraries, and I certainly don't want to see their hours reduced more than they currently are.
Victoria?
So I am not in favor of reducing library or parks hours. The taxpayers do pay taxes to utilize those facilities. Library services was actually one of the departments that I advised for administrative matters when I worked for the county. And a lot of those workers are part-time employees, and they have to work 2 and 3 jobs. So I think that we also have to take into consideration those hard-working county employees as well. Most of them work 20 hours per week, like I said, and they work a second job. So I couldn't agree with that one.
Jack, should the county cut library hours and services?
I served on Parks and Recs, South Parks and Recs board, and I can tell you what they do for our community is invaluable. And if you don't invest in our children and keep them off the streets, it's going to cost us more in taking them off the streets. So Parks and Recs is a no-brainer. Libraries, let me tell you, I've spent a lot of time at the library because that's where I went and got a lot of my palm cards signed. And I got to meet people and find out why they were at the library. A lot of these people are getting an education at that library. It's their only availability to a computer. It's their only availability to information that they need, and it's well utilized. So I'm not for cutting budget on the libraries either.
Thank you. Brian?
I'm opposed to cutting libraries. With respect to parks, I think there's an alternative that ought to be considered as well. There are some municipalities that have county parks in and around them where the municipalities are interested in taking over those parks and continuing to use them as parks so that they'll exercise local control and essentially take what is a liability and a continuing expense off the hands of the county and maintain it for the residents in a way that we would expect. The parks clearly at this point are not in a great state of repair. I've been to several of them recently. We have docks and walkways that are blocked off or that are barred off with pieces of 2x4 or 2x6 that say keep out or broken. So I think we need to explore creative solutions, not just look at cutting or not cutting. I think potentially selling them to the municipalities is a beneficial way of resolving the issue altogether.
Thank you. So let's move on to economic development. What is your view of the Economic Development Commission of the Space Coast, whose job is, among many things, attracting businesses to relocate to Brevard, and agencies such as the North Brevard Economic Development Zone? Should they continue to exist? Why or why not? Victoria, you go first.
So I think the EDC does a wonderful job at what they already accomplished here in Brevard County and bringing a lot of jobs here to the Space Coast. One of the projects, the Walmart Distribution Center here in Cocoa, brought 400 jobs to this area. And I think that I would love to see them also partner and bring in more trade programs and partner with Eastern Florida or some other schools and getting trade programs. So I just couldn't foresee doing away with the EDC and what they do because they've done a tremendous job.
Jack?
I would agree with Ms. Mitchner that they do a great job. The thing of it is, though, I would like to see a little more oversight, but that goes for everything. But the job they do, people don't realize the responsibility they have in this community. They don't just work on bringing in large Embry-Air companies. They're working on small business and helping the community with our small business. They have to work in a very competitive environment. Every city, every state, every county, everybody's out to be competitive to bring in the big companies. So there's a real competitiveness there. So there has to be some privacy. And people get up in arms because they want privacy, but that's the only way to maneuver in a competitive environment is to initially have confidence in them that they will maneuver under the radar and be able to bring in the Embry-Airs and that time. Did a signal come up? I couldn't see because of the light. I'm sorry. The light got me.
It's okay. Brian, your thoughts on the EDC and economic development agencies?
Sure. In theory, I don't have a problem with any of them. However, my concern is in practice, not in theory. As a fiscal conservative, when I look at business tax incentives, I have to look at the overall benefit to the locality. And what I feel warm and fuzzy about, or certainly warmer and fuzzier about than anything else, is if we're going to offer a business some form of tax incentive to get them to stay here or to get them to come here, it should only come out of tax revenue in the future that we otherwise would not have realized. So if we're bringing a company in here, I don't necessarily have an issue crediting them from the future taxes that we wouldn't have otherwise received anyway. However, in terms of simply offering handouts for milestones, such as getting a certificate of occupancy, that I don't feel warm and fuzzy about, and that's something I would oppose. But my understanding is the EDC, having spoken with them, does operate to a large degree in a way that I'm comfortable with by offering those business tax incentives on the back end from new tax revenues.
Chuck, you're next on economic development.
Okay. I would tell you that the EDC has saved Brevard County from absolute collapse because when the economy went bad, when the space shuttle got parked, it was critical that we recapture jobs, that we had a skilled workforce, and we needed to bring those people into manufacturing with those skills, and they've done a great job. The tax abatement program is approved by the citizens of Brevard County, so they're following a program that actually only gives a benefit if they expend money to create new tax base, and if they create those jobs. If they don't do either of those two, then they don't get the abatement. So I think the program has worked out exceptionally well. Our staff on the EDC is highly respected throughout the state, and that's been seen through the amount of economic development dollars we've gotten from the state of Florida in conjunction with what we've done. So I think they've done a great job.
Thank you. The County Commission this year approves using $5 million from hotel bed taxes paid by tourists to install AstroTurf at the Viera Regional Park. Critics say that money should have gone to the Indian River Lagoon. Do you support the Commission's decision in approving this project, and explain why or why not? Jack, you're going first.
Should have went to infrastructure surrounding the lagoon. We were just talking about not having money to be able to work on our infrastructure. So, they're involved with the tourism department. Tourism department brings people into Brevard County. It doesn't make sense to bring people and to grow if you don't have infrastructure to maintain the growth. So that's where smart growth or sustainable growth comes in. That's my feeling on it, exactly. I could use up more time talking, but I'm not going to.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. Brian, your thoughts on AstroTurf?
I think it was an absolute waste. I don't like that was done. The fact that we're bonding out certain things, yet paying $5 million for AstroTurf is mind-boggling to me. We were earlier talking about a $12 million or an up to $12 million deficit or loss with the Homestead Initiative potentially going through. There's almost half of that entire amount. So no, I'm completely against that.
Thank you. Chuck?
Well, I think the decision was actually a good one. The fact that those fields were originally designed for one sport and there are now three on there, just our local kids are on a field that's dangerous. So even if it were, if we had known there were going to be that many kids on those fields, we probably would have put in AstroTurf when they were first built. I think what's lost in this is that this money is specifically tied to tourism, and you can't just shift it around, use it anywhere you want to for any purpose you want to, and that's by state statute. So I think their decision to improve those fields benefits our kids directly, and it also puts heads in beds, and I think that's important as well. So if you support tourism, it's a good project.
Thank you. Victoria? No, I'm sorry.
Just to that? I mean, it did go over something.
No, I'm sorry. We only rebuttals if he's bringing up something you specifically said, or
Okay.
and let's stick to if they bring up another
Can I have my
opponent.
30 seconds I didn't use last time?
I'm sorry. You have
I'm just
your
kidding.
closing
I'm just
statement, so
kidding.
we have plenty
A
of
little
time.
levity, that's all I was trying.
Well, Victoria, I believe you're next.
Okay, I think that the decision was a good decision, and from what Mr. Nelson said, that money can only be used for tourist development, and so the money that we generate in tourist tax, it does a lot. 10.8 million goes towards the Save the Lagoon project, 10.8 goes to Brevard County Public Schools infrastructure, 3.1 million goes to fuel tax for road improvements, and 13.6 million goes towards the tourist development. So I think that they did the right thing, especially if they couldn't shift the money around.
Thank you. Chuck and Victoria brought up the fact that the tourism development tax dollars are tied to certain projects. However, the law has been changed in the last legislative session, and counties and municipalities can now use tourism tax dollars for the lagoon, for sewer and road infrastructure. So my next question is, should the county revisit how it's spending its tourism tax dollars and perhaps spend it on roads, infrastructure, and sewer and the lagoon? The first one to go is Brian.
Yes. I'll save you guys some time. I
And
know we're
please
running behind, so.
explain why.
Yes, no, I think the last example of $5 million going to AstroTurf, that's an excellent reason why it ought to be revisited. To me, we have so much excessive spending and so much waste, it needs to be revisited. We can keep taxes low, or at least as low as possible, by cutting expenditures. in terms of reshifting it, if we have to spend the money because it's given to us for some particular purpose, I think it should always be revisited to see if what we're doing is the best use of taxpayer funds. Anytime you're just going with status quo without questioning it, you're not doing the service that you owe the constituents within the district.
Thank you. Chuck?
Well, I think that the tourism tax, now that it can be used for roads and other purposes, I think there's a danger in that, because we have multiple funding sources, and it's not supporting the original industry that it was intended to. And I think that it would be easy for county commissioners to begin to siphon off those dollars, and the tourism industry will be hurt by that. And they have been, and certainly in District 2, a major benefit for us. During the economic downturn, while they suffered as well, it still helped us. It saved us for, a lot of lost revenue. So I think it's short-sighted to begin to siphon off money to fund these other needs, and I think we need to stay with what we've got and look at those other funding sources and make sure we're spending those wisely.
Thank you. Victoria, should the county revisit how it's spending its tourism tax dollars?
I think what they're doing right now is a wonderful job. I mean, in certain cases, on a case-by-case scenario, yes. However, I just still stand by my last statement.
Jack?
You were kind enough to, the extra time I wanted was to make the statement that that law had changed. So thank you for doing that for me and making that point. And yet we've right back to saying, no, it's got to stay with tourism. Well, there's a reason for that. If you want the answer to that reason why that money needs to stay in tourism, go to our finance on the supervisor of elections and look at where our money funding's coming from. And you can tell by Mr. Chuck Nelson's income where that's coming from, which are a lot of hoteliers and a lot of the tourism industry, which is hoteliers. So we've got to start looking at our infrastructure, the nuts and bolts, and we have to make sustainable decisions that are going to last in this county.
Thank you.
Excuse me, it's my turn. Since he mentioned my name
Sure.
very
No one said-
specifically.
No one said it wasn't.
30 seconds.
You're going to change the law again?
You know, first of all, it seems to me that at least two members of this board have forgotten who exist in as their constituents. I'm not going to apologize that I've been supportive of the tourism industry, just like I've been supportive of the aviation industry, the space industry, and all of those that are creating a stronger tax base for us. So, you know, I've been here for 30 years, almost, so I would expect I've met some of those folks, and I think that they've enjoyed the benefits
you.
of. Okay.
30 seconds. Thank you. So let's move on to the next question. The county recently decided to phase out its funding for nonprofits and charities. So my question is, should the county revisit that decision in terms of funding charities and nonprofits that help the homeless, among other causes? Chuck, you're going first.
I think they should. I think it's a mistake to not to look at what the community needs are. For instance, Meals on Wheels is the classic example. It brings back hundreds of thousands of dollars to this community to feed seniors. That in itself would be great. But if we can keep a senior out of nursing care or a nursing home, it's going to save us $30,000 a year. And that comes out of Medicaid, which we pay off the top before we do anything else. It's an unfunded mandate. The state sends us a bill, and we pay it. So certainly, I think we need to look at those programs where there are benefits. Some of the juvenile programs, for instance, if you can keep a child out of incarceration, that's almost $30,000. So I think there are benefits to these programs. It's not charity. They have to meet goals. There's oversight, so I think they're beneficial.
Thank you. Victoria?
I have to agree with him. I do think that they need to revisit their decision, and one in particular, the Community Action Agency. They cut funding from that program, and that program helps out a lot of Brevardians that are in need with utility costs, prescription costs, and rental assistance as well. And I think that we need to always give our neighbors a helping hand and a hand up instead of just saying, you know, forget them, because you never know when you're going to be that person in need. So I really do think they need to revisit that decision.
Jack, should the county revisit its decision to phase out?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be approached as a all-end-all. I think that each nonprofit needs to be looked at individually, and if it brings back some value to our community, like Meals on Wheels, then I would say that's a nonprofit that needs to be considered. But each one has to be scrutinized and looked at individually, and there has to be some proof as to what value they are to Brevard County and our community, something given back.
Brian?
My view with it is a little bit different. It's not totally dissimilar, but the way that I look at it is if we're buying a good or a service that we'd otherwise buy, or something that would benefit the county as a whole, then that's something that's potentially a good decision. However, if it's something where we're, on the other hand, giving money away as a handout to a charity, I don't know that it's the position of the government to essentially confiscate money by taxing us, to turn around and to choose which charities and which amounts to give those charities. I've donated to multiple charities this year. I've donated to charity last year, and every year that I can recall that I've been an adult, I've donated money, I've donated time, but I believe that it's my decision who I donate to and how much I donate. But as I said, if we're buying a good or buying a service, I don't have an issue with that.
Thank you. Still on a similar topic, do you support county investment in the arts and culture to develop Brevard as a cultural destination? Victoria, you're going first.
Yes, I do support that, and I think that we need to invest in the kids and STEM programs, and just invest in them. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue twisted. I invest in them and just basically let them know that they're our future, and I just don't see any issues with that.
Thank you. Jack?
Our culture is part of it. Music, culture is a big part of how we define our community. And there's a big value in that. And this is where we need to, I believe we need to consider that. At the end of the day, that's more up to the people. If the people don't see value in culture and that, I see it through a lens, but a certain lens, but that's because I was in the music business. So I saw firsthand what it could do to a community. I went out and did a show in Collingwood, Canada. 120,000 people in a little ski town because they appreciated culture and music. And it can really, from a financial standpoint, really do a good job in a community. So,
Brian?
It's a tough question. And the issue is, if we have the money, it's not necessarily that tough, but we don't have the money the way that things are being allocated at this point. I think that what we choose to spend and the extent to which we choose to invest in anything that's art or culture related has to depend on our overall financial circumstance. I'll tell you, my wife and I, this is not the first year that we've had season tickets to BSO. I'm sure we'll renew next year, whether it's the same cost or twice the cost. We're going to continue to go. I don't know, in all honesty, though, that that's something that benefits the vast majority of the residents here. And if there does have to be a cut, it's unfortunate. I know that it's going to drive my ticket prices up, but it's not fair that I subsidize or other people subsidize my enjoyment of a particular show. So it's something where it's going to depend on our overall financial picture.
Thank you. Chuck?
You know, Winston Churchill said, if we are going to get rid of the arts during the middle of World War II, what are we fighting for? And I think it's important to understand that the arts create tourism, the arts create the attraction of major employers to our community. If you look at the Northrop Grummans, the Lockheed Martins, they want to come to an area where their employees can enjoy living, because it's not all about just working, it's about you're living in a community. If you look at Huntsville, Alabama, they are one of the top in the Southeast arts communities, and the reason is they've got major businesses there. And so I think it's important, if we're going to compete with other parts of the state and in the Southeast, I think you've got to have arts programs that work for the community, that attract people to our community.
Thank you, and we have 5 minutes left, so that's enough time for your closing statements. Time to make a good case for voters, and we're actually going to do reverse. So we're going to start with Chuck. You're going first. 1 minute to do your closing statement.
Okay. Well, what I think I bring to this table is the experience that is necessary going forward, because I do believe the homestead exemption is going to pass, and it's going to be just as it was in 2008 when the last homestead exemption passed. What I hear is this lack of understanding. It's not $7 to $12 million that we're going to lose. $7 million is the general fund loss. The other 12 are in multiple other sources. It'll be $12 million. And when we talk about where we're going to go in the future, you've got to balance it. We had a gentle landing, if you will, when we had to make all of our cuts, and it wasn't easy. Sometimes I think I get criticized because I didn't enjoy making those 500 cuts. So I think the issue for me is, and the reason I got into this race was because I think this is a great community, and I think it can and will continue to be great. We just need to make sure that we manage our government in a way that respects its citizens and it listens to its citizens.
Thank you. Brian, your closing statement.
Thank you. Just to mention something that Chuck mentioned a moment ago in terms of experience, I think experience has a value if you accomplish things that are substantial during that time in office, if you fulfilled your campaign promises. And I recall from years back hearing about the lagoon being a priority and about roads being a priority. However, we have the same issues now. To leave after 2 terms an issue that was one of your campaign issues worse than you found it, any way you want to excuse it, blaming an 8-year economic downturn, which I don't know really lasted a full 8 years, the full 2 terms, that's offering excuses instead of solutions. I'm an attorney. That's what I do by day. I mediate cases as well. I'm used to bringing folks together that have intractable views and opposite views. I'm going to bring those skills to bear on the county commission and work to build consensus and work to build bridges with the folks in the different districts so that we can get what we need in this district funded appropriately while eliminating and lowering the expenses that are truly unnecessary.
Thank you. Jack?
Excuse me, do I get 30 seconds?
I'm sorry, no rebuttals in the opening or closing. We got to follow the same rules here.
So
I
we got
apologize.
a second free shot.
Well, you had your free shot because he went first in the opening. So, Jack, we're gonna do your closing
You
statement.
threw me off now, man. I'll tell you what. Listen, at the end of the day, the difference between running a business and running a county or being part of the way the county is run and making decisions on how the county's run is to take into consideration quality of life. And that brings us right back to sustainable decisions, okay? Those decisions sometimes aren't just about the environment. They might be about, in the case of wanting to close a park down or wanting to take away quality of life in an area. And those things need to be considered. Yes, there's dollars involved, but sometimes the county needs to consider quality of life in their decision-making. As a county commissioner, I will do everything I can to save every dollar for the citizen, but I'm also going to try to apply quality of life decisions to our county so we can enjoy this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. 1 minute.
So if I didn't learn anything, was to bring a bottle of water and bring a Kevlar. So, all right. So from day one of entering this race, I always said that I was running for all of the residents of District 2 and not just certain ones. And I stand by that to this day. I may not say the fanciest of words, but I will be a voice for the underrepresented who are not a part of special interest groups and who do not have money to buy influence. I'm running for the average person, construction workers, teachers, firefighters, janitors, that struggling family who's trying to decide what bills to pay this pay cycle. And so only thing I'm going to say is I'm going to allow the voters of District 2 to determine if I'm going to be their next county commission. I'm not a career politician. I'm just a veteran who served her country, our country, honorably, and just wants to serve again. And I just want to say thank you for hosting this.
Thank
Can I
you.
say thank you to Ms. Mitchner for her service to our country?
And thank you all
I
for
mean
being
that.
here tonight. That's a wrap-up for our County Commission District 2 Forum. Stay tuned. At 8 p.m., we're going to be hosting the candidates running for District 4 on the County Commission, covering central Brevard areas such as Brevard, Indian Harbor Beach, and parts of Melbourne and Rockledge. And also tomorrow at 7 and 8 p.m., we will be hosting candidates running for Florida House Districts 51 and 52. Reminder that the primary is on August 28th. Thank you for watching. Coming up at 8 p.m., candidates running for Brevard County Commission District 4, covering Melbourne and Central Brevard, take the stage for a live forum. I'm Isadora Rangel from Florida Today. Join us in the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast as we press on issues that matter the most to you.
Getting a college education that can lead to an excellent career is at your fingertips with online classes at Eastern Florida State College. We offer 240 courses online, providing convenience and flexibility to meet the needs of every student, especially busy adults juggling jobs and families. Many degrees are offered completely online, including 12 bachelor's degree tracks in today's fast-growing job fields of business, computer technology, and healthcare. You can also complete an associate's degree and college certificate online, making it easier than ever to get the education you need.
Taking online classes has really made life easier for me. Being a father of a toddler, I was typically busy from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. Online classes allowed me to start at 7:30, and work till 11 o'clock at night. It's just a really good option for someone who's got a lot going on.
Whether you're entering college right after high school or are already in the workforce and returning to advance your career, Eastern Florida's online classes are the perfect fit. They offer the same high academic quality, outstanding instructors, and small class sizes found in our traditional on-campus classes, ensuring you receive personalized instruction to help you succeed. Eastern Florida's online courses are offered in 12-week and 16-week formats, giving you still more study options. We also offer something no other online college can provide: campuses right in your backyard in Titusville, Cocoa, Melbourne, and Palm Bay. That means you can take classes online and still visit any of our 4 campuses to get help with one-on-one advising, tutoring, financial aid, and more.
You can go on campus, even if you're taking an online class, you can go there for tutoring, writing labs, professor office hours. You can go to the library, study. I mean, all the resources are there, just like they are for the other students that go on campus.
Take advantage of this great opportunity and get started with your online education today at Eastern Florida State College. To learn more, visit easternflorida.edu/go/elearning.
Music majors here at Eastern Florida State College are going to benefit, number 1, from quality instruction, and number 2, from being a person, not a number. We get to develop an esprit de corps that is not going to exist in a school of music that has, say, 1,200 music majors. Everybody's on the first team. There's no place to hide. There are no stragglers. We can't afford to have that. So you're going to have to perform at the highest possible level. You're going to get to play solos in the band and the orchestra. You're going to get to sing solos in the choir. You're going to get individual attention. It's really about high quality education at a very low cost.
Coming up at 8 p.m., candidates running for Brevard County Commission District 4, covering Melbourne and Central Brevard, take the stage for a live forum. I'm Isadora Rangel from Florida Today. Join us in the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast as we press on issues that matter the most to you.
Join the fast-growing and rewarding field of healthcare at Eastern Florida State College's new Health Sciences Institute, where you can earn bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, and certificates in a wide range of exciting careers, such as nursing, surgical technology, emergency care, radiography, sonography, and more. Don't delay. Contact Eastern Florida State College today.
Good evening. Welcome to our 2018 Election Forum series here on WEFS and at FloridaToday.com. I'm Isadora Rangel, your host for the evening and Florida Today's engagement editor. Tonight on stage, we're going to meet the candidates running for County Commission District 4, which covers Viera, Indian Harbor Beach, Satellite Beach, and other parts of Central Brevard. During the August 28th primary, we'll have a GOP primary actually featuring incumbent Kurt Smith and former Commissioner Trudy Infantini. The winner of that primary will face Democrat Matt Fleming in the November 6th general election. And let's go over the rules for tonight. Each candidate is going to have 1 minute to answer my questions, as well as 1 minute for an opening statement and a closing statement. Our forum series is hosted by Florida Today in conjunction with Eastern Florida State College and the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast. And make sure that you watch us again tomorrow evening when we're going to meet candidates running for state house seats, 2 state house seats actually. So we will begin now with our opening statements. The first one to go is Democrat Matt Fleming. You have 1 minute to start.
Can you guys hear me? All right. I'm running as a candidate for county commissioner because I see a huge disconnect between the current people and ideas who are governing this county and the vast majority of people who live here. And that disconnect is evident in the recent death of the lagoon, the fact that we are dumping dirt on the beach, the huge tax breaks we're giving away to big developers, and it's just sort of the messaging and infighting that we continue to hear. I've lived here for 22 years. I will be working day and night, as I already am, to begin to bridge that divide between the government and the community so that we can bring real solutions to these problems.
Thank you. Next is Republican Trudy Infantini.
Hi, thank you for being here today. I'm Trudy Infantini. I'm a certified public accountant. I have been for 35 years. I'm also an accounting instructor at Florida Institute of Technology. Being a county commissioner brings many things, and one of the big things that we do is manage your money, your tax money. I have the financial skill set to do so, but that's why I ran the first time. The reason I'm running this time is because I knocked on 1,000 doors for my opponent because he said he was going to be voting similar to me. Now, of course, not identical, but similar. And instead, he's done a 180-degree turn on some of the most important issues like property taxes and how to fund the lagoon rejuvenation. So I decided I'd take matters into my own hand and I'd run against him this time and knock on those doors for me.
Thank you. Next is Republican incumbent Kurt Smith.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I am the county commissioner. What Trudy says is partially true. I know she walked at least 2 days, so if she did 1,000 doors in 2 days, she's really, really good. And she is correct. I had thought that I would be aligned with her, but shortly before I became the commissioner, after I won the primary, I realized by watching commission meetings that she had isolated herself. She was very unproductive. Her entire 8 years she spent doing absolutely nothing except saying no. And we'll talk about some of those other things going forward. But I want to talk about me. I'm a businessman. I've got 40 years in business, and I've accomplished an awful lot in my 3.5 years here, and we'll talk about that also. But it's a pleasure being here.
May I rebut?
I'm sorry, no rebuttals in the introductions, but that we got to follow the same rules we had in the first one. But you will have 30 seconds
Actually,
when
I
we
think
move
you
to the
allowed one,
question.
but okay.
No, I didn't. So we'll start with the first question. What do you see as the 3 major issues facing Brevard County, and what are your ideas for dealing with them? Trudy, you're going first.
Well, one of the biggest issues, 2 of the biggest issues I see are the lagoon and the poison in the water, the groundwater, in the Satellite Beach and in Cocoa Beach. I attended a meeting there, and that is one of the biggest concerns because I have children the same age as the children that are now developing cancer or have developed cancer, and some of them have even passed away from the poisoned groundwater. Part of the funding sources that we have are the TDC monies. Fortunately for us, Randy Fine brought up legislation that is going to enable us to use the tourist development money to fund restoration of the lagoon and some of the poisoning that's now taking place, that we're now aware of, that's taking place in our groundwater.
Thank you. Kurt, you're going next.
Well, actually, I think there's 3, maybe 4 issues. The lagoon, one of my favorite subjects. This is a personal issue for me. I live on the Indian River Lagoon. It's not just political. Although I have sat as vice chair and chairman of the Indian River Lagoon Council, which is a 5-county consortium. I've traveled to Washington, D.C. many times to work with our legislators there, Senator Rubio and Congressman Posey. We fast-tracked permitting to make dredging quicker and easier. Jobs would be also high on that list. I've been responsible for, depending on the count, 2,500 to 5,000 jobs. Roads and infrastructure, they're very, very important to me. And I think the 3rd homestead exemption is going to be extremely critical for this county going forward. So with my business background, there aren't any curveballs that I haven't been able to hit, and I'm ready to tackle the task.
Matt, 3 biggest issues in Brevard and how to tackle them.
The 3 biggest issues we have in the county is, number 1, we don't have the community participating enough in the government. That is the source of so many of these problems. If you involve the community in governing, you don't have to wonder if you're getting it right. The second biggest problem that I see is the budget is ballooning. Even though we keep hearing how there's not enough money to give firefighters raises and there's not enough money for roads, where is all the money going? It's going to contractors. The 3rd biggest problem I see is the management of our natural resources. Between the lagoon and the beaches and the St. John's, we need a brand new approach to solving these problems.
Thank you. And let's move on to roads. Brevard has hundreds of millions of dollars in road improvement backlog. How do you propose to tackle this issue? Some of the options which we already discussed in the previous forums are increasing the gas tax or creating a special infrastructure sales tax for such repairs. How would you go about fixing our roads? Kurt, you're going first.
Okay, well, I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing. You know, I heard this issue when I ran the first time, and I adopted it because roads are extremely important. They're not sexy. People don't get all upset about roads being bad, but it's an important subject. If we said we were going to cut libraries or parks and recreation, the room would fill up with pink or purple shirts. We can cut roads, nobody really cares. But roads are extremely important because when a road fails, it costs 5 to 7 times more to repair it than it does to repave it. And if we're not repaving at least 50 miles of roads a year, we're falling behind, and that's what you're alluding to as far as our backlog. When I was chairman, I bumped up road paving from 8 miles to 58 miles. So I know what I'm doing. Again, as I said, I'm a businessman. I know how to get things done, and the proof is in the pudding. 8 miles to 58 miles of roads without raising gas taxes, I think that's a pretty stellar achievement.
Thank you. Matt?
The problem, one of the biggest problems we have with the roads here is that there is sort of a lack of a comprehensive plan that makes sense, that ties everything together efficiently. And that's the product of decades of irresponsible development. Coupled with that irresponsible development has been massive irresponsible tax giveaways. These problems will not solve themselves, and it is going to take a comprehensive approach to creating the funding and the permitting to build new roads, repave old roads, and fix our infrastructure in a way that makes it more stable for the medium to long term.
Thank you. Trudy, how do we pay for roads?
Well, one of the ways I'd pay for the roads is I wouldn't be paving roads that don't need it. We were driving on Morrell Road yesterday, and it's being repaved. Now, I can tell you, Hollywood Boulevard, that needs repaving. So does Babcock. But Morrell Road doesn't need repaving. We saw, when I was county commissioner, one commissioner pave probably 50 miles of roads that didn't need repaving, and he paved dirt roads. So what's my solution? Let's go back to what was in place back in 2004. They had a book no less than this thick of prioritizing every single road in Brevard County. And one by one, according to the priority list, we would tackle that. If you keep tackling roads out of priority, then you're never going to get to the roads that really need it. I would take all new revenue that comes in from new construction, and I would apply that to roads first.
Thank you. So let's move on to another big issue in Brevard, which is the lagoon. Would you vote to make permanent the current moratorium on conventional septic tanks within 55 yards of the lagoon? If not, what other measures would you put in place to protect the lagoon? Matt, you're going first.
I would absolutely support that moratorium. I was disappointed to see that any septic tanks were approved within, I think it's like 150 yards or up to 300 yards from the lagoon, because they leach nutrients into the system. In addition to that, there is already a citizens effort that needs to be supported in our community. But the county needs to come up with a comprehensive plan to fix the sewers.
Trudy?
Well, I understand, and it sounds and feels really good to require everybody to have this super duper septic tank, and that'd be great. The problem is I feel bad saying, do as I say, not as I do. And the county leaked, 22 million gallons of sewage? They just dumped it into the lagoon. Yet I don't want you leaking any of your nutrients on your property. Do you see where there's something wrong with this picture? I can't be that person. I can't tell you to go out and spend $6,000 or $10,000 on your home when I won't prioritize, and I'll go buy AstroTurf so I have great playing fields for the kids, but I'm not going to put sleeves in those pipes that are failing. I'm going to wait till they bust. And you want to talk about roads costing more money to fix after they're deteriorated? Fix a bursting sewage pipe that's blowing into the lagoon. Now that cost a lot of money.
Kurt, should we make our current septic tank moratorium permanent?
Well, I would, and I was the moving force behind that. I have an aerobic treatment unit on my own septic system. I live on the Indian River Lagoon. And for the information of the folks here, studies have shown that septic systems that are within 150 feet of a tributary, whether it's a lagoon or a creek, a family of 4 leaches approximately 12 pounds of nitrogen and 9 pounds of phosphorus per year. So on my very street, there was a very small lot with a big house, and their septic system failed. And I went to the Brevard County Health Department and said, did you require an advanced treatment unit? And they said, we can't. And I couldn't believe it. So I went to our own Eden Bentley, our county attorney, and she looked it up and she said, yes, we can. So we're putting moratoriums on leaking septic systems, and if you have a small system, then if it fails, you're going to have to upgrade it.
Thank you. So our next question is related to that. Brevard is enjoying significant population growth. Given all of our infrastructure issues and with the lagoon, do you believe the county should continue to encourage new construction, or should it change to a more slow growth policy? Trudy,
Well,
you're going first.
I don't know, if we're going to keep spending $1.5 million on the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, to bring in new jobs, it seems silly to say we shouldn't have growth. So then are you asking me, should we get rid of the EDC
No,
to stop? Well, because if we want to slow down growth, we should probably eliminate the EDC, and therefore we would save $1.5 million in our budget. So I'm for smart growth. I'm not for going out and attracting businesses. Brevard County, you know why you came here. It's the same reason why I moved here. I don't know how many people in the audience or our viewing audience, our original home residents here, were born and raised here. I wasn't. I moved here because of this county. And I know that businesses are coming, and they're actually staying because they love Brevard County.
Thank you. Kurt?
Well, I want to remind people that 70% of the public have voted for economic development, I think 3 times since 2000. And so that message is loud and clear to me. If I was a commissioner in Indian River County where they don't care about economic development, I wouldn't be pushing so hard. But I know you folks do. And so I've been to places like Washington, D.C. and Colorado Springs at the Space Symposium to try and bring businesses here. And I've done exactly that. I was involved with Blue Origin, which is going to bring $32 million a year in salaries here. That's just one company. Northrop Grumman, since I've been in office, has grown from 2,000 employees to over 5,000. And right now they're looking for another 250 people. So controlled growth is what we are doing. You can just look at Vieira for a perfect example, but controlled growth is where we're going, what we're doing, and we're on the right track. We need to keep doing what we're doing.
Matt?
I don't think that government, at least local government, has a whole lot to do with controlling the rate of growth. I think that's macroeconomic pressures. You know, the rate of growth has a lot more to do with, especially in Brevard County, like federal funding for programs, just the housing market in general. What we can do is work towards smart growth, which means, you know, trying to develop our urban centers in a way that is good for business owners and good for community members, and also to sort of limit the outward sprawl of development into the wetlands and the St. John's, because that's our drinking water. But that's smart growth in terms of development. Smart growth also involves investing in pro-growth sectors of the economy.
Thank you. And Trudy, you brought up the EDC, the Economic Development Commission of the Space Coast. My question is, the county currently gives over $1 million a year to the EDC. Do you support continuing that funding? And has the EDC been effective in attracting new businesses to Brevard? Kurt, you're going first.
Okay, well, we actually give them $1.4 million, and they've been very, very effective. Linda Weatherman is the leader of that group, and she's just a ball of fire. She's on the go 24 hours a day, it seems, and she's attending these conferences all over the country to try and bring businesses here. One of the most hilarious things I've heard since I've been in office is, well, they would come here anyway. Well, you know what? We're one of 67 counties in Florida. We all have sunshine, we all have palm trees, so what's the difference? Why would somebody want to come here rather than somewhere else? Well, we do have the spaceport, there's no doubt about that, but Blue Origin, I've heard that story from other people that Blue Origin would have come here anyway. Well, they didn't come here anyway. They came here because of economic incentives. We were able to give them $8 million, most of which came from the state. However, they also wanted to build a rocket engine assembly plant. They didn't come here with that because they got $35 million from Huntsville, Alabama. We weren't able to give them more than $3 million. So they're not coming here anyway. They come here for economic incentives.
Thank you. We'll move on to Matt. Your thoughts on the EDC?
The EDC is an incredibly valuable thing. It incentivizes business growth in sectors of business that fit with what already exists in the community. The problems that we've seen with the EDC stem from a lack of vetting these businesses. In the case of comprehensive health services, which I'm not 100% sure that they got money from the EDC, but they did get tax abatements from the county, that they had been sued a couple years earlier for defrauding taxpayers. So if we're giving tax breaks to businesses, they need to be vetted, and I think it's important to ask the question, what are they contributing to the community other than just jobs? Are they, and is this business paying for itself, and what are the positive benefits it brings to the community?
Trudy?
Right now, Brevard County is almost at full employment. So to be spending $1.4 million every year when we're about to lose $12 million due to the new property tax homestead exemption, I think that that would be an easy place to go find $1.4 million. And we actually gave Blue Origin $8 million of your tax dollars. It didn't come from the state, it's coming from you, the taxpayer. Unfortunately, we don't have $8 million cash to give Blue Origin up front. So what the commission is doing is they're suing Brevard County for the right to be able to go borrow money so that they can give Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos, $8 million up front rather than pay him installments over the next 6 years. We even gave Walmart $3.7 million in tax breaks. I don't think they need those tax breaks. We need those tax dollars to fund our roads, and that's what I'd do. I'd stop giving away money, and I'd keep it to fix our roads.
Thank you. And still on the same topic, do you support giving companies property tax breaks to relocate here, such as the $147,000 break that was recently approved for a medical products manufacturer in Palm Bay? Matt, you're going first on tax breaks.
You have to take a look at that on a case-by-case basis. I think that if it's generating more money than it's costing, it's a positive thing, but it should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. How does it fit with the community, et cetera?
Thank you. Trudy?
The voters approved tax abatements. A tax abatement is when a property owner occupies a piece of property, and for 10 years we tell you, you don't have to pay property tax. Blue Origin isn't ever going to pay any property tax, but instead, once they get their CO, we're going to give them $8 million. They won't pay any property tax at all because they're on tax-exempt property. So they're not going to be paying for any of the infrastructure they're going to be using. The roads, the sheriff, the jail, the fire department, all of those things they're not going to be paying for because they don't have to pay property tax. So I can't say that I'm for. I mean, I will use tax abatements on a case-by-case basis only because you, the taxpayers, voted for it. But giving money up front, no, not at all. You didn't vote for that. I did ask that you have the opportunity to vote on it when I was on the board, but the commission shot me down. They didn't want to include that on the ballot.
Thank you. Kurt?
Well, tax abatements work. They act as an incentive to bring good companies here. As far as Blue Origin, yes, they're not paying taxes because we own the property. The good part about that is if they ever leave, we get to keep the $220 million building that they built. So it's not a bad thing. And I understand as a businessman, return on investment. If I were to give you $8 million and you were to give me $32 million a year in return, that seems like a pretty good deal to me. Maybe some other people don't think that way, but as a businessman, I do. And as far as Walmart, it was $2.95 million in property tax breaks. But if that was a vacant piece of property, we'd get no taxes from it. So we really didn't give them anything, and in return, for that first 8 years, we're still collecting $5.5 million from them in property taxes that we would not have gotten had they not come. So again, you have to look at it through a businessman's eyes.
Thank you. So let's move on to community redevelopment agencies. There have been several success stories documented, as well as failures throughout the state. Do you support the continuation of CRAs and their use of property tax dollars to revitalize declining urban areas in our communities? Trudy, you go first.
Actually, I'm not in favor of CRAs. It's not a surprise. CRA money, the way it comes into CRAs, it goes into one area of the county. Let's use my glass, my cup. It's going to go, the property tax dollars that are collected in this area get to stay here. But the property tax dollars that are collected on the rest of the table go to fund all of your county services. Well, the problem is they're not taking and funding county services that they're using to the extent all the rest of us taxpayers are. So I'm not in favor of it. The reason why we have CRAs is we wanted to create little pockets of money where some people get to control, a small group of people get to control those funds, rather than let the county commissioners, who ultimately should be responsible for that money, decide if that project is needed. Case in point, they put up new streetlights on 192. They're big, tall streetlights, and I can tell you, I would have gone to Sam's, regardless of those cool streetlights or not. I can tell you,
Thank
it's
you.
a waste of our money.
Thank you. Kurt?
Well, CRAs, and most people don't know anything about CRAs, but they're community redevelopment agencies, and they do. They suspend paying taxes to the county while they improve a blighted area. And as the tax value goes up, they keep the tax money instead of giving it to the county. I understand the purpose. I understand it works. The problem I have is they never go away, and Brevard County, being the bank, never gets paid back. So one of the things that I did while I've been a commissioner for 3.5 years, I got all the CRAs and the cities involved in a room, and we sat down and we worked as adults, and I told them, listen, I want to see these things end. So we've worked out interlocal agreements with 6 of the CRAs already, and they have a finite time. They will cease to exist, and we've even gotten several projects done, like Babcock being resurfaced by the city of Melbourne. So one more thing that I've accomplished.
Matt, your thoughts on CRAs?
I don't think we should end all CRAs. I don't think we can. I think that's a decision that's made at the state. But I will say this. It is one of the most abused, and the abuse is some of the most damaging abuses to governments across the state, because it does take money away from the government, from new development. But there are success stories. If you look at the O'Galley Arts District, the CRA there has created this vibrant community. It was used as it was designed to redevelop a blighted area. And I think you do have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And I would absolutely support a lot more scrutiny of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And hotel bed taxes that are paid by tourists are currently going to projects such as beach restoration, tourism facilities, and AstroTurf at the Vieira Regional Park. Since recent legislation allows these dollars to be spent on the lagoon and road and sewer infrastructure, do you think the county should revisit how it's spending these dollars? Kurt, you go first.
Well, we've already done that. I made a proposal to the EDC to start funding some lagoon projects, because now we can. And they came back with a proposal of $1 million with matching funds, so it could be as much as $3 million. As I said before, the lagoon is a personal issue for me. It's not just political. And again, one more accomplishment on my part. I want to mention, too, that with the CRA monies that we saved by my shutting down the 6 CRAs, we've saved $1.9 million going forward, and we're using those for roads. So one more chalk mark for Kurt Smith.
Matt?
The TDC is an area of special concern for me. The lagoon is a personal issue, I think, for a lot of people. As someone who has spent hundreds of days and nights fishing and camping in the lagoon, I've witnessed it die over the last 10 years. And the TDC, the TDC fought the effort to use any of its money on lagoon infrastructure projects, and I think that was really unwise, not only from a public relations perspective, from the simple fact that the lagoon needs money to be fixed. And the TDC is also, meanwhile, while they were fighting to spend money on the lagoon, they were spending money to dump dirt on the mid-reach portion of the beach, which runs in our district from Pineda down to Indy Atlantic. It really, as a personal observer of it, it was sort of stunning to see how irresponsible that was handled.
Trudy?
Well, when I was on the county commission back in 2016, I voted I made a motion to pass a resolution declaring the lagoon our #1 priority, and I wanted to use TDC funds. I was fought right and left by the commissioners, including Mr. Smith sitting to my left. He didn't want to vote. He didn't second my vote to make the lagoon a #1 priority. He still won't make the lagoon a #1 priority of the TDC. Instead, he made it a #2 priority. I would make it a #1 priority of the TDC funds because the lagoon is in the center of everything. I have boaters telling me they are going to sell their boat because they've been going up and down the lagoon, the Indian River. They're not catching anything. Everything is dead. It's going to stop tourism. So if tourism dollars don't start funneling into there, you're not going to have any tourists coming here. People are going to be afraid that they'll be sickened by going into the lagoon, and they need to get it fixed.
Kurt, would you like your 30-second rebuttal?
Yeah, I would. Just simply put, the TDC money belongs to the TDC. It's not your property taxes. It's TDC money that they collect for bed tax. There are strict rules by the state on what they can spend that money on. You could not spend the money on the lagoon when she made the motion. So it was really silly to make that kind of a motion because it wasn't going to go anywhere. So why would I second it? It's only been this year that that the TDC could change the purpose of money spent. And another misconception is, sorry, I'm done.
Thank you. So let's move on to our next question. The County Commission recently voted against allowing a proposal on the November ballot to ask voters to approve a property tax to fund the Children's Services Council. Do you support the Commission's decision? And does the County Commission have a responsibility to support funding for programs for children with physical, mental, and emotional challenges? Matt, you go first on the Children's Council.
I was a little shocked by that vote. I thought, how can you vote against kids in an election season? I am not as familiar with the nuts and bolts of that as I need to be. It's an incredible amount of information I'm digesting. But I got the sense that the real conflict was where was the money going to go versus what was it going to do. And I think it's an excellent idea, and we should not give up just because it failed to pass a vote once.
Thank you. Trudy?
Well, actually, I'd like to devote my 1 minute to something else. It was presented to the board once Representative Fine's bill passed that the TDC money could go to the lagoon, and when Commissioner Tabaya brought it forward and said, why don't we reverse this $15 million we're going to be spending between AstroTurf and a new museum, and let's put it toward the lagoon, it was voted down by all the others on the commission, including my opponent. And so while it may not have been approved at the time, actually it was legally lawful, but we'll say it
I'll ask
wasn't.
that you stick to the question at hand here on the Children's Services Council. Go ahead.
But I just wanted to use my 1 minute on the things that I think the people really want to know about this. I think they want to know that 15 million could have been diverted toward the
I
lagoon.
just ask you to answer the question at hand. You have a few seconds left on the Children's Services Council. Your thoughts on it?
I tried to get rid of the Children's Service Council for 8 years when I was on the county commission, and that was because we met every year for 5 minutes. Every year we met for 5 minutes, and we wouldn't meet again for another year.
Thank you. Your minute's up. Kurt, your thoughts on the Children's Services Council?
Well, the Children's Services Council, as the sitting county commissioner for District 4, it was one of the things that was brought to me. And I spent time with those folks in my office, and I quizzed them. I have 2 objections. One, I'm a big charity guy. My wife and I give away a lot of money. But it's not my job as a commissioner to give away your money. And as much as it tugs at my heart to help these kids, the Children's Services Council has been around since 1990. And if they really want this thing on the ballot, they could have gone out and gotten petitions signed. Then it would be on the ballot, and it wouldn't be up to the commissioners to make that decision. So I think you people, the voters, have a right to vote on it if they get enough signatures signed on their petitions.
Thank you. The next question is, do you support the Commission's recent decision to allow county employees who have concealed carry licenses to bring their weapons to work? And please explain your position. Trudy, you go first.
I do believe in an employee's right to carry a concealed firearm, as long as they have a concealed carry permit. Many of us went out and got it. I know I went out and got my concealed carry permit in 2009. I would like to have the right to defend myself anytime, and I'd like to have the right to be able to defend my children. And I don't take that right lightly. I'm very, very careful and responsible with it, but I also don't try to pass off the responsibility of protecting my family when and if I have the ability to do so myself, and that's what I've done. So I fully support it.
Kurt?
Well, I've been endorsed by the NRA, and I firmly believe that if bad guys can bring guns into the county, then county employees have the right to defend themselves. I know that some people that don't agree with that, but if you put a gun on this table, that gun's not going to kill anybody. That gun can only kill somebody if somebody picks it up and points it at someone else. And I want to be able to defend my employees. I want to defend my family, and so I have a carry permit also. So I'm fully in support of people that have carry permits, that have gone through the training. They can carry their weapons on the job.
Matt?
I think it is important to respect people's gun rights. At the same time, I'm always floored by the irony of people who have been rattling sabers for years about arming the government. We have to protect gun rights because the government is big and scary and it's coming to get us. But now we're arming the government. I'm always been confused by it. I think the Second Amendment's important. Unless there's a need, I don't think government employees really need to be armed at work.
Thank you. Voters in November will vote on a proposed constitutional amendment to increase the property tax homestead exemption, which could cause the county to lose as much as $12 million a year in tax revenue. What would you do related to the county budget if voters approve this measure? Kurt, you're going first.
Well, this is a scary proposition, folks, because I can tell you that we don't have $12 million. We're the only county in the 67 counties in Florida that have a charter cap, which means we also have a budget cap. And so it makes it very difficult for us to fund an awful lot of things. So for us to take a $12 million hit, it would be disastrous. I want people to understand that although it sounds good to many people, I've had people say, hey, tax break's a tax break. Well, the problem is that the reality is that there's 43% of the properties in Brevard County now that are homesteaded, but only 22% of them will qualify under this third homestead exemption. So that means the rest of the 78% of you will be subsidizing the 22% that do qualify. So I think people really need to think long and hard before they vote for this thing.
Matt?
$12 million represents about 1% of the county budget. It is not some kind of impending catastrophe. $12 million could be saved by simply auditing the contractors who are providing services for the county. When I hear that we're paying $300 a lock for door locks on a wholesale order, I know that we have a problem. When I hear that we're paying $100 a foot for sewer pipe installation, we have a serious problem. $100 to put in a foot of pipe, all you're doing is digging a hole and putting a pipe in the ground. And even if that takes a little bit of specialized equipment and digging under sidewalks, that's an outrageous amount of money. So we can easily find $12 million in the county budget.
Thank you. Trudy?
I'm a certified public accountant, and I've been an auditor I've been a certified public accountant for 35 years, auditing people's books and records and looking at financial statements and budgets. And I can tell you $12 million in a $1.2 billion budget is nothing. And right now, I could rattle off 3 things that would pay for it. Blue Origin, $8 million. The EDC, $1.4 million. And Walmart, $3.7 million. Right there, that's $12 million. 2 companies, and 1 EDC when we're at full employment. That wasn't so hard, was it? Look, bam, done. Problem solved.
Thank you. What are your plans for making Brevard County more resilient in the face of climate change and sea level rise? Matt?
That is a challenge. And I think anyone that studied the issue knows there is no simple answer to that. I think it's important to understand what climate change and sea level rise entails. It is not this rapidly approaching catastrophe that some are making it out to be, but we are seeing increased flooding. We need to stop building in floodplains, I think would be a good place to start, because that doesn't cost anything to do. Beyond that, we do have to take a look at infrastructure. You know, where is water going to be getting into things as we experience more flooding that's going to cause damage? And over time, we really do have to consider how do we sort of unbuild some areas that, in the next 100 years could experience inundation.
Trudy?
I'm not terribly concerned with climate change. The weather changes all the time, and I'm not personally concerned about it, but I am worried. We do have areas that are very close to the water. At times, the beach washes away, and if we would stop pouring more and more sand on there, more of the beach will erode. What we need to have are plans so that people are not permitted to build so close or rebuild if it does wash into the ocean. I'm not sure why oftentimes if something collapses into the water, oftentimes we're allowed to rebuild. I've seen it done on rivers where people have rebuilt after they flooded out. I don't think it's a good idea, so perhaps in many cases we shouldn't be building quite so close to the water.
Kurt?
Well, resiliency is an interesting topic, and I've had numerous people into my office to speak to me about it. Satellite Beach has resiliency plans. Some other communities do as well. I can tell you the Transportation Planning Organization, they look at transportation, roads, and I sit on that board. And they are looking at ideas and ways to raise the level of the causeways to the barrier islands. Transportation Planning Organization does planning. They look out 40 years, and that's the way they try and plan. And it's very interesting to see that they operate that way. So climate change is something they're very concerned about. Myself, I'm not a scientist, so maybe not so much for me, but I'm willing to listen to people that know a whole lot more than I do before I make up my mind one way or the other.
Thank you. And the county recently decided to stop giving grants to nonprofits and charities. Do you think the county should change that decision and continue to provide grants for such nonprofits, such as ones that help the homeless and other causes, or even Meals on Wheels, which eventually got funded this year, but funding is uncertain for future years? Your thoughts on funding for nonprofits? Trudy?
I don't believe it's my right to go into your pocketbook and decide which charities you will donate to. I just don't think that that's my privilege, and so I don't want to do it. I've tried to do away with funding not-for-profits. I shouldn't be able to pick the winners and losers, and I've seen an awful lot of winners out there. I mean, we have some amazing not-for-profit organizations, but what you may not know is the county also receives money. I actually audited when I was auditing for the Clerk of Court, Scott Ellis, and I saw where people that need money because they can't pay their rent, they can go to the county. When people can't pay their electric bill, they can go to the county. We have SHIP funds and we have CDBG funds. We have many different pockets of money that they get federal grants for that are used for that very purpose. But we also have churches. Back when we lived in Melbourne Beach, my husband and I would prepare food for Chapel by the Sea. And sometimes they would tell us they had a family there that needed food. We would give them free food.
Kurt?
Well, I sat on the board when we made the decision to scale back on the CBOs, the charity-based organizations. And my feeling at the time was, and I believe I was the one that led the charge on that, as I already told you folks, I don't believe it's my purpose as a county commissioner to tell you what charities you should be funding through the government. You should make those decisions yourself. It shouldn't be the county commission making those decisions. But it was impressed upon me that if we cut those CBOs off at that point, which was 3 years ago, it would be very, very difficult. So I agreed that going forward, let's cut them back 20% a year or $100,000 per year. So at the end of 5 years, they have plenty of time to become accustomed to the fact that they're not going to have that funding.
Matt, your thoughts on the county giving grants to nonprofits?
I think giving grants to nonprofits is an excellent thing. It's something that benefits the community at $1 per benefit that, you know, there has to be a real vetting process, but you don't take away funding from Meals on Wheels. You know, it is just an example that jumped out at me. That was actually one of the things that made me decide to run for county commission, because I realized there was a sort of vacuum of understanding of how things work in the community when I saw that. I do think that the county can have a grant program for nonprofit organizations. I think there's nonprofit organizations right now that are benefiting tremendously, and the community is benefiting tremendously because of it. If you look at the work Keep Brevard Beautiful does, they're everywhere, and they are, in fact, keeping Brevard beautiful. So it's something I support.
Thank you. Now, moving on to taxes, kind of an open-ended question, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Would you change anything in how the county levies taxes and how much taxes are levied by the county in terms of property taxes? Kurt?
Well, property taxes are based on the value of your home and the millage rate, which is the tax rate. The county commission controls the decision, and they make the decision on what that tax rate is going to be year to year, the millage rate. It's very complicated. I'm not going to try and explain to you aggregates and rollbacks and things like that. Let me just say that the commission makes the decision based on the needs of the county, what that millage rate should be, and approximately how much revenue that will bring in. The 3 years I've been on the board, all 3 years, we have voted and we have passed on property tax rate decrease to each and every one of you. So I know by definition we raised taxes in 2015 and 2017, but I would venture to say that, in fact, I'll make this challenge. All the people in District 4 in the last 3 years whose property taxes went down, if they would vote for me, I would win in a landslide.
Matt?
I wouldn't know where to begin to address the complex issue of taxes in under a minute, and I'm not as well qualified to talk about it as Trudy Infantini is, as I'm sure she will. I think it's important to take a look at how we are raising money, what the impacts are in the community, and I do have the skills and ability to read through a spreadsheet, and not just a spreadsheet, but real policies and understand what the impacts and outcomes are. My degree was in international business at the University of North Florida. So taking a look at how taxes are done, I don't think we should make radical changes, but I think there are probably a lot of ways that we can make it better for the average citizen and worker and homeowner here in Brevard.
Trudy?
The county collects property taxes based on the value of your home. And then, and I'm going to use this sheet of paper, which happens to be one of the notices of tax increases that you received that went out, that was published in Florida today in 2015, and then another one published in 2017. So your property taxes did go up. What it means is, collectively, the three of us, if we pay $100 in property tax this year, if our property value goes up, well then, so will our taxes. If the county doesn't decrease the tax rate down to here, then we will be paying in more than $100 collectively in property taxes. When he says that he decreased rates, he did decrease rates, but he increased taxes. So collectively, we may have paid in $130. Now, Matt may have paid less, while Kurt and I may have both paid more, or maybe just one of us. The point is, you would have paid even less had they lowered the rates so that their revenue was the same. Spending increased every single year while he was in office. I can tell you that.
Kurt, you have 30 seconds.
Well, I can just point out that the property taxes on the commissioner to my right, on the house that she lives in West Melbourne, that happens not to be in District 4, they went down. The actual tax amount paid went down in the years that she's been living there, which I believe is 2. So, again, for me, if my tax bill is less this year than it was last year, I don't care what definition you use, I paid less taxes, and that's what I'm talking about.
Trudy, I know he brought up your where you live, so I'll give you a chance to clarify the record. Do you live in District 4 or in West Melbourne, like you said?
I live in District 4, but right now my home is under, well, actually I had to report my home to code enforcement. It's a condominium, and I tried to get it repaired after the hurricane, and since December we've been trying to get the wall repaired. Right now, the exterior wall is still not up, and so the interior wall, there's not even drywall. All you can see are the 2x4s. There's Visqueen on the interior wall, and the exterior wall is still plywood. So I'm not sleeping in the bedroom there until they fix the wall. I hope you understand that living with mold is not something that's acceptable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so the next question is actually related to the state
So
legislature.
wait, I'm the only person does anybody else get a single personal question?
Well, he made a claim about you. I was just giving you an opportunity to respond.
Okay,
I thought it was fair.
thank you.
You're welcome. So the next question is, several state legislative efforts this year were aimed at reducing home rule over such things as landscaping restriction and other topics. Do you support that trend toward more state control, or do you believe local municipalities and counties need to maintain at least their current level of control over local policies? Matt, you're going first.
That's an incredibly complex question. I do lean towards home rule. I think you get better policy when the people who are being affected by the policies are there to participate in those discussions. We have seen this sort of insidious effort at the state level to take away some very important type of home rule protections. Chiefly among them for me is the protection, the customary use ordinances for the beach. They didn't just remove customary use as a protection for the public statewide. They then went a step further and made it so localities couldn't pass their own customary use ordinances to replace that. That's something that I will be a fierce advocate in Brevard County against those kinds of negative state interventions in how we govern our local communities.
Trudy?
I completely support home rule. I do believe that local government is the best way to have government. The closer you are to the people that are making decisions for you, the easier it is to reach them and help them make informed decisions based on all of your input. So I completely support home rule charter.
Kurt?
I'm very supportive of home rule. I think that it's dangerous precedent that some of our legislators in Tallahassee have decided that they should impose home rule on us. I understand some of the reasoning. I've spoken to some legislators, and they believe counties that are very liberal shouldn't be so liberal, and that they, being more conservative in Tallahassee, they should impose their conservative wills on the legislative bodies, the commissioners in the more liberal areas. It's a very dangerous precedent, because at some point, we all know the revolution of politics. At some point, Democrats are going to take over, liberals are going to take over in Tallahassee again. What happens when a conservative county like Brevard here has to deal with those people and they say, you should be more liberal? I think it's a very dangerous precedent, and I'm very, very much in favor of home rule.
Thank you. And now a campaign finance question. Please tell us who your 3 largest campaign contributors are and their relationship to you, if any. And to follow up, do you accept any money from special interests and corporations and companies? And the first one to go is Trudy.
The biggest person contributing to my campaign is sitting out there in the audience. It's my husband. but actually it's us. So that's the biggest the contributor to my campaign is my husband and I don't actually know who the other two are. I mean, I didn't actually look at my campaign report. There's not a whole bunch on there, but I mean, I don't have, I'm not supported by every special interest group, and I wasn't, my campaign wasn't contributed to by the two head Democrats in the county, Robin Fisher and Kendall Moore, who supported and actually helped host a fundraiser for my opponent. So, Kurt Smith. So I don't know.
Thank you. Kurt?
Well, $1,000 is the most anyone can give a candidate. I have no idea how many $1,000 contributors I got, but I got a lot. I've got a lot of $50 contributors. I'm a very popular candidate, and I'm not patting myself on the back, it's just fact. I've got people from Sheriff Wayne Ivey to former Sheriff Jack Parker to virtually every organization that exists in Brevard County, the Space Coast Realtors, the business community. So I've gotten an awful lot of support, and my total income from these contributions is well over $100,000. I have a lot of broad support, and I'm very happy that those people acknowledge that I've done a really good job as a commissioner, and I've worked hard for the entire community. So because I have broad support, yes, I have contributions from some Democrats, and I have some contributions from NPAs. People can't buy me because they gave me contributions. That's not the way it works, and I've proven that.
Matt?
All three of us sitting up here, the largest donors to our campaign so far have been ourselves, because there is not a limit on the amount of campaign contributions we can contribute to our own campaign. I had to pay $3,500, I think is about where I'm at on that, because my petitions were not counted properly by the supervisor of elections, even after I went in there and presented evidence that in fact they had thrown out good petitions. Beyond that, my next two largest donors, I have no idea. I've taken a lot of little donations, and I'd have to go back and look.
Thank you. So we're almost done. We're going to move on to our closing statements. And because we have very little time left, I'm going to ask you to stick to 45 seconds this time. And we're going to start with Kurt first, your closing statement and why voters should support you.
Well, I humbly ask the voters from District 4 to support me again. I did what I said I was going to do. Jobs, Indian River Lagoon, infrastructure, roads, those are all things that are very important to me. I've proven as a businessman that I can get things done. I know how to work with people. I work with Democrats, NPAs. I work with everybody. I don't think just because you think differently than I do that we can't agree on something. And what really stymies me when I first got into this, I was amazed that there's so many people in this county that would rather argue with the 20% of the things that they disagree with you on rather than the 80% of the things that they do agree on. In other words, if you and I agree on 80% of a subject, why would we not work together and solve the problems of 80%?
Thank you.
Instead of doing nothing with 20%?
Trudy, you're next.
Well, I'd like you to know that when I made campaign promises that I would do everything in my ability as a certified public accountant not to raise your taxes, I never voted to raise your property taxes. I kept my promise. My opponent went campaigning and said he wouldn't raise taxes, and I ran into a neighbor in Vieira, and he said he stood right here on my front porch, and people gathered around, and he said, I'm going to vote just like Trudy Infantini. Yes, and so I will also go back to declaring the lagoon a state of emergency, and now I have the votes. Finally, I have a voting block of my peers, and I should be able to declare the lagoon a state of emergency and continue to keep my promises that I made when I was walking and knocking on all of your doors.
Thank you.
And I hope I earn your vote. Thank you.
Matt, 45 seconds.
If you want real change, vote for me. I am not a part of an establishment that has driven so many things into the ground in this county and excluded so many people, and I am not a part of a national agenda funded by lobbyists to take away home rule and do even more damage. So if you want real change, if you want responsible leadership, if you want smart answers that involve the community to the very real problems that we're facing, and you're tired of the arguments about who raised what taxes, and you're tired about arguments about social issues, and you really want to solve Brevard County's problems, vote for me. I need your support. I need your donations. You can see my website at mattflemingbrevard.com.
Thank you. And thank